Make sure your mic's on. It is 6 o'clock. Martin and Naomi, are we ready?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Okay, I'll call the April 26, 2022 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilmember Steckler. Please lead us. Naomi, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
Here.
Councilmember Bond.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Here.
Councilmember Steckler.
Here.
Councilmember Allison.
Here.
Councilmember Duque.
Councilmember Duque informed me this afternoon that she is ill and will not be able to attend this evening. So can we have a motion to excuse?
We can't hear you. 1 second. We can't hear the council chambers. Sorry
Can you
about
hear now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Someone's device is broadcasting and needing to be understanding.
Not mine. I think we found the problem. No, maybe not. So remember, it means even muting yourself on Zoom, not just your audio on your device. We good? Okay, Senator Lubbock, name and address in 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, my name is John Lubbock. I live at 2403 157th Place Southeast in Mill Creek. And I wanted to come down tonight because I know this doesn't get said enough, but I really want to thank all of you and the staff for the extraordinary work you do. I've had a series of coffee chats around the neighborhood, just going around meeting people, and I'm getting the same message from a lot of people. They might not come down and tell you, but I want you to know that you really are doing a good job. And nobody's paying me to say that. You're just doing an extraordinary job. But I was down 2 weeks ago, and I remember Chief White invited me down, and we talked about the law enforcement initiatives that we worked on. And I wanted to come back just to say this. In addition to working on those great initiatives, House Bill 1719, 1735, and 2037, we really did a lot of great things. When I say we, the legislature did a lot of great things during the 60-day session. We invested in working families, education, the environment, public health, and we made targeted tax cuts to help stimulate the economy and create clean jobs. We also passed a 16-year, $17 billion transportation package in a short session. And I thought that was major. And when you look at some of the things we did, there will be a lot of investments right here in the 44th district. Another thing about the supplemental operating budget, we took some serious steps to reduce poverty and homelessness. We added more school counselors, nurses, and in addition to that, we passed a total of 308 bills during the session. And most people don't know this, but almost 95% of those bills had bipartisan support. Now think about that. When you think about what goes on nationally, 95% of those bills had bipartisan support. And I heard something today that just made my heart warm. The Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch gave our state the nation's top credit rating. And what they said was this. It said it goes to show that investing in schools, the environment, healthcare, and other programs critical to Washington families and small businesses and maintaining healthy reserves is the definition of fiscal responsibility. I just want to close by saying this. Two quick things. I told the chief the last time that when I called the Criminal Justice Training Commission, they had 9 classes going through the academy. I talked with the director this morning. There are 10 classes at the academy now. And the neat thing about that is that those are 30 recruits who will come out and change the culture of law enforcement. And the last thing I'll say is this. Alaska has dog sledding, dog mushing, California has surfing, New York has baseball, now Washington has pickleball. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else in the audience like to address? Mr. Wright? Anyone else in the audience? Okay, seeing none, I'll move online. I see Will's hand up. Will, you know the drill, name and address, 3 minutes?
Will Nelson, 14925 29th Drive Southeast, Mill Creek.
Hold on 1 second, Will, we're not hearing you.
I'm not hearing you guys either.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Barely.
Oh, boy. I'll give it a go.
Yep, go ahead.
Will Nelson, 14925 29th Drive Southeast, Mill Creek, Washington. I understand from Hillary Bulbitz at the Mill Creek Community Association that the former mayor has been out campaigning in some of the subdivisions promoting Prop 1 along with the MCCA initiative and hoping that this will pass. I've been doing the same in Red Cedar, hoping that we can get this proposition passed. On a personal note, too many stairs for me anymore, so this will be the last campaign I work on, but I hope we're successful tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Evan Briggs. Name and address in 3 minutes, please.
4015 133rd Street. Good evening, everyone. I live here at the farm, and I'm sure many of you know what that is. It's a low-income apartment here. I think it's on the north side of the town. Anyway, the reason I'm here today is to talk about some issues we're having here, and I would like to bring those to the council. I spoke with 2 other residents today, and we're all having the same kinds of issues here at the farm. Particularly, there's a noise issue that isn't really getting addressed by the management here. There's also that noise issue affects all 3 of us, the other 2 people I spoke with today. So I would like to, hopefully we can do something about that. I would also like to invite all of you to the farm. If any of you would like to meet with us in person, I would, welcome that. In addition to noise, we have a package theft issue here. I had one person tell me that 7 of their packages were stolen because there is no secure package delivery here. There's only lockers for like Amazon deliveries, and there's just regular post mailboxes. So if you get UPS or FedEx deliveries here, you're not going to get your packages won't be secure. It's basically left out in an unsecured room. And just today they installed a camera there. So hopefully that will deal with some of the issue, but that's not going to solve the issue because it's still easy to come into the building and just walk out with packages or just rip open someone's package you see on a counter. So the noise issue, the package theft issue, dog pee and poop on the carpets in the stairwells. So just basic residential issues we're having here at the farm. And if so, I will send you my information so you can be in contact. Other than that, it is like affordable housing, but some of us do pay up to $2,000 a month to live here, and the noise is really driving us all crazy. So if they do charge us $100 a month to park here in the parking garage, and this is not a big ask. We're basically asking for standard living conditions. We're asking for the office to deal with the noise complaints professionally and quickly. And we need meaningful accountability measures and substantive working relationships with anyone who is willing to help us. The only recourse we have is to move out, which I've already decided that it's not worth, fighting this battle with the management company, because, they have lawyers and I'm just a regular person. So I will send you that information, and I would love to hear any suggestions or anything you can do for us here at the farm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. If you could forward your information to the city manager.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council this evening? Online? I'm not seeing any more virtual hands raised. So without audience communication, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. We'll move on to our presentations.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
First,
can I just, Mayor Holtzclaw?
Acting Chief White, the presentation of the 2021 National Night Out Award plaque.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Council. I'm actually very happy to be here tonight. Is it working? Okay. Actually very thankful to be here tonight to recognize some very hard work by some volunteers here with the police department. Since 2015, the Mill Creek Police Department has been involved in National Night Out. And that's an event sponsored by the National Association of Town Watch, which is participated across the country the first Tuesday in August. It's a great event. We've been very successful here in Mill Creek. We've got several communities that are now, or neighborhoods, I should say, now taking part in National Night Out. People are hosting block parties, getting to know their neighbors, understanding what it is to be civic minded and being aware of crime in their neighborhoods, and being able to identify who is part of their neighborhood, being able to identify who they can go to as a resource. And Mill Creek has provided an event as well since 2015. We've had great sponsorship from Kiwanis, the Chamber of Commerce, Starbucks Coffee. It's just been a great event. I'm fortunate enough to have this volunteer patrol, the Citizens Patrol, if you guys could all stand up. Barbara Idle, George DeWitt, Jeff Kyle, Sally Dagna, and I really wanted to point out tonight Jenny Hoagland. Jenny is one of the newer members of our Citizen Patrol. But she also was willing to step up and be the ringmaster for this event. And she really did a great job. There is an awards portion of this event. And each year, each agency will furnish a report and publish that report with the National Association of Town Watch. And for the last 2 years, Mill Creek has been recognized. We are in a category 4, which is populations between 15 to 50,000 residents. And this last year, with Jenny's work and the rest of the Citizen Patrol's work, we finished 16th. We recognized the 16th in the nation. So a real great accomplishment for them. We're just going to make it bigger and stronger this year. So we'll be coming to you guys, the council soon, so that we can have another proclamation for National Night Out 2022. So with that, we have received an award from the National Association of Town Watch, which we'd like to present to council. Mayor, if you come forward. This is just a plaque regarding our achievements in 2021 for National Night Out.
A lot of trusting for all the work you did. Thank you for all you guys do to make this.
You have to say, can we get a picture
Yes, please. Picture of them. Of everyone.
of them with us?
Picture of everyone if we can. With us.
Yeah.
That's on or off? Comfortable taking them off?
Yeah. Mask off. Whoever's comfortable, mask off would be great. We have to ask you to get a little bit closer.
Dan always asks me to wear a mask.
All right, here we go. One, your partner. 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Chief.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Might be cool. Maybe we start a new wall. We start the wall up there. We do that.
Okay, I'm going to turn over item D to the acting city manager of the Snohomish Public Health Happenings in Snohomish County.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Every year, Snohomish Health District visits a number of cities across the county, usually once or twice, to provide kind of an update of kind of what they're focusing on, as well as what's going on in the public regarding public health. This year, we have a pleasure to bring in the Assistant Director of Prevention Services over at Snohomish Health District, P.S. Sampaga Kim. She'll present us with this year's information. Now I'll hand it over to Pia.
Thank you. Should I share my
Oh,
screen?
hold on one sec. We're having the same
One
problem
second.
again.
Sound
Okay.
problem here.
As soon as Joe leaves the room, issues come up.
That means you hear those.
Yeah, you are a co-host, so you can share your screen.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me see if I can. Hold on. Let me see if I can share
There we go.
my screen.
There we go. Go, 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 go.
Little echo.
Again, an echo.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Now we
Okay.
can't hear her again.
Oh, you can't hear me?
And now we can't hear you. Pia. Hold on.
Let me see.
Yeah, your mic is working well. There's something in the council chamber, so we need the
Okay.
Joe's going to help us. Thanks for your patience.
Able to hear the only what we can't hear.
I hear you in an echo, Joe.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just can't have the council speaking from that mic yet. But
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you so much and good evening, council. My name is P.S. Sampaga Kim, and I'm the Assistant Director of Prevention Services. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you all tonight and share some updates about Snohomish Health District. So first, let me see if I can get this right. Okay, so one of our data and trends, I'd like to share with you some of the data and trends happening in Snohomish County. Sorry, I'm like, sorry, let me see. So I want to share with you on what we're doing right now to ensure that Snohomish Health District becomes is a sustainable organization. One of the things that, as we enter 2021, we had a balanced budget and plans for a sustainable organization. The district continues to be responsive in its efforts in close collaboration with local, regional, and state partners to control the spread of COVID across Snohomish County. Additionally, the district has continued to perform those routine public health functions, such as access to vital records, prevention services, and environmental health public services. Good news is that last year, the Washington State Legislature made significant investments in public health through foundational public health services. And these investments has greatly increased our capacity to deliver public health services to the residents of Snohomish County. So for 2022, our budget was really built on the future while staying true to the values that you see here. So demonstrating our commitment to our community, advancing clean, open, and honest communication, ensuring the responsible use of resources, being driven by diversity, equity, inclusion, and operating as a team. So one of the strong departments that we have, our strategic goals that we always do, is trying to reduce the rate of communicable disease and other notifiable conditions. And this is through our communicable disease department, as well as our STD and HIV department. And as you can see, those are the current rates that we have been experiencing in 2020 and 2021. Unfortunately, what you also see there is an increase in syphilis cases. That's not only in Snohomish County, that is across the nation. And in order to address that, we recently added 2 more disease investigation specialists to really help with education, as well as ensure that partners and the individuals receive treatment in a timely manner. And again, looking at COVID, we've been working on COVID for the last 2 years, and we really have been using a standalone incident command structure to do our vaccine efforts, our testing efforts, our contact tracing. And so looking into the future, this is something that we're looking to migrate into our normal work. And so our focus will continue to preserve hospital capacity, as well as supporting our healthcare system, and then helping our providers become go-to for vaccines. This is going to be very evident as we prepare for vaccines to be available for younger children. And then with the recent lifting of masking requirements in most settings, we will continue to update our website on those guidances and recommendations as they shift. As Dr. Spitters has shared, there may be a time, depending on rates, that masking may come back, but we're hopeful that we can get back to what we consider a new normal. Oops. Our Healthy Communities team is a team under the Prevention Services Department, and they really address preventing or reducing chronic diseases. And as you can see, there's 2 things that we really are focusing on that team is drug overdoses and fatalities. And then we also have a healthy community specialist that focuses on injury and youth prevention. And so in 2020, we actually saw that Snohomish County had 0 youth suicides. And historically, Snohomish County has had higher youth suicides in the state rather than our state rates. And so our CDR team really wanted to take a deeper dive. And our CDR team is our child death review team. So Wendy Burchell with Snohomish County Health District is our county's child death review coordinator. And they are a collective group of multidisciplinary partners that really look at child deaths in the county. And they review them and try to see what protective factors or what led up to those and tries to mitigate so that we can prevent future deaths. And so knowing that we had 0 suicides in our county, they wanted to do a deeper dive at what protective factors really led up to that. And so during COVID times, we were looking at, is it more family time? Is it more supervision? Less bullying because kids are home? There's less juggling of commitments. And so they're trying to explore that and looking at ways that we can mitigate that in the future. And then, and a completely unrelated, because this slide gets a little confusing, is our drug overdoses. So this chart right here is our opioid-related deaths by type in Snohomish County. And we have a very robust opioid team that is really looking at the data in our county on a regular basis. As you can see in 2021, there is a slight decrease. However, those are preliminary numbers. That red line that you see is our overall count of deaths due to all opioids. And then it's further broken down by those 3 bars, that green bar, that purple one, and that teal. So that green bar is heroin. And then the purple bar is prescription opioids. And that teal bar is synthetic opioids. So what we are seeing is a large contribution to the deaths in our county is due to fentanyl.
Which category does fentanyl fall under?
Because of, so given what we're seeing around opioids, one of the things that we have been really working on is what an adult fatality review could look like. And luckily, the last 3 years of this formation kind of paid off because SHB 1074 passed this last legislative session, which allows local health public agencies to establish adult fatality review committees. So we've been doing this with child death review. We want to take that model and apply it to what we're seeing around adult deaths due to suicide, substance use, and overdoses. So these review committees would include the medical examiner's office, our local law enforcement, our Snohomish County Human Services, and other partners that are dictated by the case. So we would look at cases and look at which partners need to be in the room in order to help mitigate or figure out what gaps we're missing in the overall system and address it from there. So the hope is that we can use this data to identify these gaps, and that way we can take that and either do new programs or new initiatives in order to prevent similar deaths from happening. So just as an example, child death reviews are where interventions like seatbelt and bicycle helmet laws were identified. So it's a proven process in preventing deaths, and we're really hoping to apply that same process in order to prevent suicide and overdose deaths in adults. Shifting over to our environmental health department, we have a very robust team. And this last year, you can see this is stats specifically to Mill Creek. We did 60 annual food permits in your city limits. Our inspectors and our food safety team performed 76 routine food inspections last year and responded to 18 food complaints. They did 9 year-round and 10 seasonal pool inspections and responded to 2 solid waste complaints. Our environmental health team is growing, and this is really in large part to the foundational public health funding that was awarded last year. We're hiring new staff in our food department, our safe environments program, as well as our land use program. We're also excited to work on a couple new initiatives. The one thing is to actually digitize all our old paperwork. I know that doesn't really sound exciting, but for an organization like Snohomish Health District, being able to digitize and make our information web-based makes it more accessible to our community members. It increases transparencies, makes it easier for the public to access records, and reduces the need for public records requests. The Washington Food Safety Code was revised recently and took effect on March 1st. So our food safety team has been working very hard to develop educational materials to communicate those changes to all 3,500 operators in our county. We're developing materials online and in print media, all in multiple languages for a wider reach. And we're also working with each facility through our routine inspections to ensure that they're aware and are prepared for these changes. Our school safety inspections are in progress during the school year. Oops, I'm sorry about that. We're inspecting roughly one school per day until we get through them all. We're also sending staff to trainings on school playground inspection in hopes of incorporating that into our program. And our Safe Environments team continues to work with the Snohomish County Nuisance Property Task Force in responding to solid waste complaints. We also investigate complaints that come in from members of the public. And then just recently, our front counter opened to in-person customers. So we are taking environmental health application and permit information, as well as fulfilling birth and death certificates. Shifting back to our prevention services department, we have a very robust maternal child health team that is working to improve maternal child and health outcomes. In 2021, we have a team that works with ensuring that our families are connected through the baby and child dentistry. Our child care consultations we did over 600 consultations. Our special healthcare needs team connected with 1,192 children. We had 3,635 STARS courses completed. And STARS is a career development system that's specifically designed to improve childcare amongst childcare through basic and ongoing training for childcare providers. And then 3,891 people and providers were reached through our oral outreach, health outreach program. It's a mouthful. And then just as public health, we are always wanting to work, always gathering and analyzing available data. And to do that, in order to address ongoing critical public health issues, we're embarking on an updated community health assessment. And our community health assessment is done typically every 3 to 5 years. The last process was actually done in 2018. And our community health assessment looked at over 100 different indicators. So our epidemiologists pulled together county level data on a number of sources. And then through a work group of our public health advisory, as well as some community organizations, they were able to narrow down the list and shared them with our community stakeholders in order to refine it to 2 to 3 indicators that were impacting our county's citizens. And so in 2018, they identified suicide prevention and mental health, substance use and housing as key issues to focus on. As this process is completed, typically we have a final report, and the report is used by our hospitals or nonprofits and other agencies in order to demonstrate the need for funding. And then we would create what is called a community health assessment plan, improvement plan, which is essentially a 3 to 5 year strategic plan to address the issues that were identified. So unfortunately in 2018, when that report was completed, we were in the process of doing our CHIP, but then COVID hit, so our priorities sort of shifted. We recognize that this coming community health assessment is not only important to us as public health, but is going to be very important for other organizations and other partners as we really look at what COVID has done to our community members. And we really hope, this process is going to start in the fall, and we really hope that we look forward to reporting to you on what we come back with. So ways to get involved with our health department. One of the biggest things that we're doing right now is really getting our kids back on track with this ABCs for Healthy Kids campaign. So for the last few months, we have been, each letter or each is corresponded with a public health message, a positive public health message, and each material or letter is planned for about 2 weeks. And each of these has an activity for kids, a blog post, links related to resources from the health district and other partners in the community. And so we're always looking at different partnerships. So if there's ways that you could, that we can get out there through health fairs or community events, please reach out to us at communications@snohd.org. This is my contact information. And as well as Sean Frederick, who is our administrator. I am more than happy to take questions from anybody. But thank you.
Thank you, Pia. Are there any questions, or comments from the council?
Can you hear us, Pia?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Councilmember Vaughn, did you have a question on slide 7? Can you go back to slide 7, Pia, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
My question was answered by the council member next to me who heard her say it. Thank you. But I do have a follow-up question to the drug overdoses. Should I use another mic?
No, if someone has a computer not muted.
Remember, it's not just turning down the sound, it's muting on Zoom as well.
You can't see which one it is?
That sounds better now. There was
All
no
right.
echo then.
The
That's better.
drug overdose deaths, those numbers are really scary.
Mhm.
And I spent the last 31 years in law enforcement, retired in last September to make a career change. And I don't miss telling people that their child died from an overdose. Is there anything on the horizon that we can do to make some progress on this? It's a scary number and it's not getting better.
Yes, I absolutely agree. When I started in the health district, I actually started as an opioid prevention specialist. And, we definitely are seeing the effects of what COVID has done in the last recent years, as well as the trends of fentanyl, because fentanyl has definitely added a whole new layer to this epidemic. What we're trying to do right now is we currently partner with 8 different police departments to engage on Narcan distribution in the field. And we're really looking to not only expand that to all first responders. So we're looking at what leave behind programs look like. How do we better engage with our law enforcement around education, or what training needs do they need from the health department? But we're also looking at how do we get community members involved, because we do know through our hospital data that majority of the folks that are coming in for non-fatal overdoses, their family members or their friends are using Narcan on them. So how do we get them into the hands of our community members? And we're really looking at working with community organizations around training and being able to have Narcan on hand. We're hearing from from our community members that pharmacies are denying Narcan because they don't have a prescription. So we're seeing that there's a need for education around at pharmacies on the standing order.
So how does that work? If I have a loved one struggling with addiction and I want to get Narcan because I'm worried, how would I go about doing that? Because we have a standing order, you should be able to go to any pharmacy and purchase that outright. And so,
do you have any idea what the cost is?
So that's another issue, is that we do have their cost, even for someone who with insurance, you're looking at least $130 for 2 doses. And that's problematic, especially because Narcan, in some cases with fentanyl, it's taking up to 3 to 4 doses in order to keep a person alive. And so we're really looking at creating a system where individuals can actually request Narcan through the health department. And then we work with the pharmacy on dispensing it. And then we reimburse the pharmacy for that cost. So those are some ways that we're hoping that we can mitigate those issues of cost. I know that there's sometimes in some of our community members, they don't want to use their insurance, and educating pharmacies on programs that they can use in order to lower their cost of Narcan. We're working with our legislators on the cost of Narcan, because if Medicaid or insurance companies can cover it outright, then that is also a barrier that we can address. So we're really looking at different ways that we can expand Narcan distribution. And on top of that, the hospitals are coming out of are trying to come out of COVID. So we're also working with hospitals on non-fatal overdoses and how do we mitigate at the point of admission into the ER. if they're at a vulnerable state, is there some way that we can increase capacity so then that way there's a more robust referral system? And, we're hearing that from our police force as well, is that once they have somebody ready, they have nowhere really to go because all of the treatment providers are either booked or full. So one of our goals also is to create this robust referral system. So then that way no person is left behind. But we still have a lot of work ahead of us just because we're still trying to mitigate what you're seeing on the screen is that fentanyl is something, that we knew was coming, but we didn't know to what effect it could cause. And now we're seeing that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. Just not a question, but just to kind of piggyback on that a little bit. We've taken the kind of pinprick approach toward drug addiction and fentanyl in our community. And this isn't trying to hash out blame towards anybody in the room or anybody on the Zoom meeting. Soft on crime policies, catch and release, not holding criminals or those in addiction in custody any longer. Making it difficult to make people subject to arrest for possession. The Supreme Court in this state allowing small amounts of heroin, meth, and fentanyl to be possessed. We fixed that here in the city. However, the cities around us are coming apart at the seams as well. At least our police officers have the ability to arrest on drug possession. The House bills last year, all of them make it difficult. And what you're seeing now is the byproduct of all of these poorly planned initiatives. And these folks in addiction are now going to suffer, and the numbers are going to go up. They're going to continue to go up year over year, and it's policy driven. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Pia, for the presentation and all the work you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to a discussion on IT.
Thank you, Mayor. So information technology, as you all know, spans everything we do. It's the computers we work on, the ones you're on right now. It's a backbone of all of our departments, and IT touches everything, whether it's communicating via our hard lines or cell phones. It's the data that's transmitted across the systems remotely, internally. It's not just the large projects that we need to recognize, but just the daily things we do, the weekly and the monthly tasks that where we leverage technology. It's how we utilize our apps. It's how we improve on storing our data, increasing the speed by changing the types of capital equipment that we use every few years, replacing those laptops and replacing those desktops. So we're here today to address those, to educate both council and the leadership team and the city staff and the public on kind of what we do in the city of Mill Creek to ensure that our systems are secure and safe, which also includes mitigating those IT risks by simply having audits on an ongoing basis from the state, outsourcing with consultants to ensure that our cybersecurity systems are secure as well. And just taking those simple tasks as always changing our passwords and having internal policies to do that on a regular basis. So now this presentation by our IT manager, Joe Sokolowski, will provide you with that information on how we support our 75 end users, including council, our FTEs, as well as our boards and commissions. So I'll hand it over to Joe, our IT manager.
Thank you, Acting City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and citizens, for an opportunity tonight to speak about the state of the Mill Creek IT department. My name's Joseph, or you can call me Joe Sokolowski. I have a degree in network administration, over 24 years working in IT, plus 5 years active duty, 5 years reservist, working with a bunch of Navy IT geeks in SPAWAR, which used to be Space and Aviation Warfare Systems Command, but they changed their name to Naval Command, Control, and Ocean Surveillance Center, which is another long acronym. I started working with the city in March 2020 when the pandemic first hit. And here's the agenda for tonight. What is an IT department? We'll go quickly into that. We will dive into some metrics, current IT projects. We'll cover the Washington State audits, share a recent security assessment. We'll review the computer replacement schedule. If questions can wait till the end, I'd really appreciate it. That helped me get through the presentation sooner than later. So what is the IT department? Let's start with the basics. App services and infrastructure, servers, network, storage, etc. Right? We monitor these things and troubleshoot these servers and network stuff, right? So, and we also oversee the security of that stuff. Next slide. Okay, what are the 14 components of the IT department? These were taken right out of a book from Bob Coppedge, a CEO survival guide to information technology. Line of business applications are unique to each department, like Springbrook, our financial software, GovQA, which interacts with citizens and public records requests. New World application for PD is a county application, but the IT department here supports the initial errors on the application and coordinates with the county if needed. Phone systems, which would be number 6, I believe. It touches on a lot of these items like 2, 6, 7, 9, and 14. So when projects come up, we are in kind of a need for a new, I am currently recommending a new phone system for the city, and that would touch on a lot of these components. Cloud computing, we are an Office 360, Microsoft Office 365 shop and SharePoint, but we're not like crunching numbers in the cloud. We're just using cloud services. And we have an internal document. The IT department lists about 40 IT services. Don't have a screenshot of that, but here's, let's take a peek into the IT department. So what are the, well, not yet. Looking at the metric slide and I'm not there yet, but what are the IT department responsibilities? Well, day-to-day deployments, onboarding, offboarding, et cetera, new servers, new applications. We also, we support troubleshooting the applications, the application planning and support of the applications when things happen. Security compliance. That is, I'm very big on, I need to sleep at night. So I need to make sure that everything is secure for us in the city. All right, here's the peek into the metrics. We have 75 end users. We have 15 printers at the city main campus, both buildings. We have 68 desktops. We have 25 laptops. That's including the MDCs in the cars, I believe. Applications, I tried to count them and I stopped at 100. Average IT tickets per week. Now these include phone calls and face-to-face questions and email support, about 27. It's roughly about 5, 6 a day, give or take, whatever's going on that day. Spam, let's take I made some spam improvements when I first landed here, and we got it pretty reasonable. And phishing is the biggest villain for our security because any end user, it depends on the end user to actually be trained enough to spot a fake email. And they do. We put in some measures to stop that. The average the IT department does get calls for like a virus, like I'll get an alert and, it's normally someone looking for a Word template online or something like that. And they go to download it and our layer of security, the antivirus catches it. So, we have to rely on these these several security layers to help protect us. All right, projects. The IT department, let's see, AP streamlining, that is a project helping finance. It's on hold right now. The software I'm using only has like off track, on track, but it's really on pause. It's not really off track. This is helping finance department with Springbrook, getting payroll in there, moving from ADP into Springbrook and other process improvements. This is all about process improvement. But as we all know, the finance department's been very, very busy lately. So we had to put that on hold. Barracuda to Smarsh, probably talking gibberish to you guys, but Barracuda, this is our email archive system. And this is a project brought up with the clerk department. They want everything under one roof, basically. And it says off track because when we submitted the request to the vendor, things got delayed. They were having technical issues with the export, but so June-ish, July-ish is when we expect that to be finished. The chamber room hybrid retrofit, that is underway and scheduled for June or July. We're waiting for parts to come in. The city cameras, the sports park used to have cameras. They don't anymore. So we are looking at upgrading and deploying more cameras throughout the city. The GovQA redesign, that is the software. Let's see my notes. GovQA was purchased in 2018 or so, but never really used across all departments. So some configuration changes were needed, and we're underdoing a lot of training right now in the GovQA, and we're fine tuning it. The Maintain X is a online program for facilities and facility management. This one is going to be put on hold, but that's what the IT department does when another department has a need and it crosses over into IT. It's a potential project. On the bottom of this slide, there's 5 phases to a project. Project management is very important to the IT department, and because it results in great results and minimizes risk. And the mayor helped us get a millcreekwa.gov domain name. So acting city manager and chief approved all of our email addresses to change. And this project's underway. It's kind of going testing right now to see what breaks. And then when we figure it all out, we're gonna roll it out. Look out for emails on that. The Washington State audits. These are not mandatory. When I first landed here, people were like, "Oh, it's mandatory," but it's not. It is volunteer basis. The last one done was in 2016. We were one of the first cities to volunteer for the free audit. It was a new program at the time. I was just told, I just got off the line a week or two ago with SAO. They found nothing crucial. They just said, continue to improve the security and your policies, your internal policies. So with that, in 2017, many new initiatives came in that I'm benefiting from on a daily basis. Well, we all are, like our virtualization machine that was brought in and some other things. The audits are not mandatory, and I was told we can get on the sign up list, but they won't be able to get to us for 3 years. So acting city manager and I were talking about that. We'll probably get on the list since these things are free for us. The goal of IT while I'm here is to help improve process, people, and our product for staff and citizens. That is what really drives the IT department. Now this was our recent security, in 2021, a lot of municipalities getting ransomware, a lot of concern. And we had some credits with the Davenport group, and they were able to provide us with a proactive security assessment. There was no critical items. Since it deals with security, I can't go into too much in depth, but you know where to find me. We're almost to the end. The computer replacement schedule. Every 5 years, our desktop should be replaced, and the next large replacement date is the 2023-24 budget. This isn't the best slide, but you can kind of see the police have a lot of desktops in 2023. I kind of have some estimates. The cars, the computers in the cars are set for 2024. And we're, like most municipalities since COVID, we're moving away from a one user with a desktop and a laptop. Seems kind of excessive, and we can save some money by just giving them a laptop and not the desktop. But there are many users, especially police, that need both. And with that, any questions?
Thank you, Joe. I assume the weekly tickets don't include your help with the council members on Tuesday evenings.
That is correct.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Joe, for the presentation. Did you get my response to your email? I clicked on the link you sent me. It was your Gmail account. Your name was spelled wrong. I was a little concerned about that, but then you said urgent in the text message, so I knew it was legit.
Well, I hope that didn't happen. I hope that is a joke.
Councilmember Steckler.
Joe, just a quick question. I noticed the replacements 23 to 24, significant amount of front loading in 23 versus 24, like I can't remember the number, 77 units versus 24. Was there any reason why we put so many into 23 versus evening that out a little bit and putting a number of them into 24? What was the rationale on that?
Typically, the way these things go down, you want to buy them in bulk to get a good price. And it's just easier to, I wasn't around when they were first purchased, but normally you purchase computers in bulk and then you roll them out, and then you want them to be covered by a warranty in case any hardware fails inside of them. Like Dell, we go with Dell here. They do on-site maintenance. They've helped out in a pinch a couple times. Am I answering your question?
I think so. You're saying that by buying them in bulk and putting them in all at the same time, our warranties are covered, and it's better for the city to do it that way rather than spread over 2 years.
Yes, and also end users, right? Anything IT does really impacts end users from my experience. So you don't want half the people on Windows 11 and then half on Windows 10. Just because training issues, software, the software will work on one computer but not the other. So you want that nice IT environment for all users. Everything's the same. We're all on the same page. It's just better process.
Thanks.
Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you evaluated the cost difference between purchasing the equipment versus leasing the equipment?
That's a good question. No, but we can, since we have plenty of time. I would have to get with the finance department and see what they say about that.
Thanks.
Other questions, comments? Okay, Joe, thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move now to our presentations. Item F, the Planning Commission interview applications. I'll turn it over to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. We had 3 vacancies and 2 applicants who would like to return to the Planning Commission. As always, we are so blessed to have such wonderful volunteers who commit their time and energy to do work for the city as volunteers. And with that, I would like to make a motion to appoint Matthew Nolan and Jose Brunda to serve terms on the Planning Commission expiring April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Just for the record, the interview committee was myself, the Mayor Pro Tem, and Councilmember Allison. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 6-0. Item G, I believe this is the city engineer authorizing execution of an architectural and engineering professional services design contract with Grant Osborne.
Good evening, council members. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come before you to present on this program and this project. I'm presenting a general update on the program and this project, as well as the 2021 project, and then requesting your consideration to authorize a professional services agreement for the design of the 2022 project. So I think I've got it set up here. So just to summarize briefly, I am going to go over the program overview. Many of you have already seen this overview last year. Some of the council members have not, so I want to touch on a fairly regular basis just to keep everybody up to date. I do want to take a quick side trip to update you on the construction status of the 2021 project that you awarded last year and kind of let you know where that is at right now. And then my general review of the project funding and expense commitments for the 2022 project, and then follow up with my proposed motion. So the surface water aging and failing project in the city of Mill Creek right now has a goal to maintain our existing storm piping through the full operational life of that piping. We have generally focused on pipes 18 inches in diameter and greater, as failure of pipes of that size tends to result in the greatest consequences for the city, in particular sinkholes similar to the sinkhole that we had experienced in Sweetwater Ranch back in 2019. When we did the pipe assessment and we did the program work plan, we graded the pipe video that we had at that point in time on the basis of grade F, grade C, or grade A. Grade F pipes were identified for immediate replacement and or repair. These were failed pipes, and that was largely addressed in 2019. The current work program focuses on what we call the grade C pipes. And these were pipes that had conditions that showed that they were deteriorating slightly faster than the typical life of a stormwater pipe, such that if left unaddressed, they would probably need to be replaced faster. And generally, the parameter that we look for is 10 years. So if the pipe looks like it is going to deteriorate fast enough that it'll require placement in 10 years, we look at rehabilitating that pipe to lengthen it out and give us more usage of that pipe before we have to dig it up again. So the work plan that was created in 2018 and 2019 for that envisioned about 8 years worth of repairs between 2020 and 2027. I will introduce that, and when I talk about this program a little later on this year during the budgetary process, that we are likely to look at updating our program level planning for this project. Some of the camera video that we used when we developed the original work plan was as much as 10 years old to begin with. It ranged from 2012 to 2017. So it really, some of it is a little overdue. And we should probably look at least on starting to use some camera updates. We also will present you with an option to consider, which is potentially expanding the program to include pipe 12 to 18 inches in diameter. Just because a pipe failing doesn't cause a sinkhole doesn't mean it doesn't result in other costly issues for the city. So it's worth looking at in the future. For right now, though, we're focused on the current work plan. The current work plan of grade C pipe repairs uses trenchless technology. We're trying to save on cost and save on materials and such by working with the existing pipe and rehabilitating it just to address the deterioration without having to spend a lot of money on surface restoration like repaving or creation of new sidewalks if we dug something up. So each year's project, each year's design project in particular, consists of 3 basic steps. We update the work plan to inventory work already completed, just to make sure that we're staying on track. We identify a package of pipes and sections of pipes for that current project phase. And then we have a design consultant prepare draft and final engineering design packages with the final used for bidding purposes. We use a somewhat abbreviated planning process or design process for these sorts of projects because the pipe is already in the ground. We already know where it's at. We know what size it is. We don't need to do a lot of redesign of the pipes because we are just rehabilitating the existing pipes. So a lot of the design effort is focusing on laying out the drawings to be bid each year and providing the specifications for our contractors to bid on the project and be able to give us a good price for the repairs each year. So in 2020, the Grade C pipe rehabilitation project completed about 2,400 lineal feet of cured in place pipe. So cured in place pipe is a slip line along pretty much the entire length of a pipe from catch basin to catch basin or from catch basin to outfall. We also use what are called sectional cured in place pipe lining. These are used in specific pipe locations where maybe we have just a little bit of a localized deterioration section, but the whole pipe does not need to be slip lined in order to repair that particular section. And so in 2020, we did about 36 of these sectional pipe sections. As you can see in the 2021 project, the one that's currently under construction right now, the size of the project was roughly similar with about 2,500 lineal feet of CIPPB and somewhat less of the sectional repairs. Again, sectional repairs, we want to make sure that it isn't more cost effective and cost efficient just to repair the whole pipe. This is about the size and magnitude that I would expect that all the projects going forward from 22 to 2017 are going to be about this same kind of scale. So just to give you a sense of the inspection method, when they're set up in the street, they are usually, first of all, they have to pump our system down. So if we have stormwater flowing in the pipes, we do need to bypass that. And then they will slide the liner into the pipe along the full length, again, from catch basin to catch basin or from catch basin to outfall. They will then use pressurized air to inflate it up against the sides of the pipe, and they will then cure it in place with ultraviolet light. And what that does, as you can see in the pictures, kind of a before and after, it doesn't actually change the diameter of the pipe very much. The slip liner is actually very thin. What it does is it gives the interior pipe a little bit of a coating that allows it to resist accelerated corrosion, resist cracking, and generally allows the pipe to continue on to its design lifespan. We're still working on getting to an ideal schedule for these annual projects. And this is something that I brought up to council last year as well. We're just in a situation where, because of the timing of the projects, we are doing the design a little bit late, and that means that we're pushing the construction a little bit late. We're going to be working on, over the course of this next year, shifting that back. And the reason why that's important is that during the winter, we have increased stormwater flows in our pipes. And so they're much more difficult to bypass. They're much more difficult to manage. And very often we need our stormwater system flowing at its capacity, especially during the winter, to deal with storm issues and such. So we are pushing to try and pull these construction projects back into a summer work schedule. We won't quite succeed this year. We're a little bit better than we were last year, but we'll continue trying to step it back to get back to a summer work schedule by 2023. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to take a brief side trip to talk about the 2021 project. So we talked about the scale of it. It's about 90% complete. We ran into 3 pipe locations here this winter in which, either because there was elevated stormwater flow in the pipes or because we found an unanticipated pipe connection that's going to require special equipment that we didn't have on site during that construction, we stopped the project temporarily. So this is a no cost to the city stop. Contractor was agreeable to just pause everything, come back during the midsummer to address these last 3 locations at no additional cost for the equipment that is required to deal with the unanticipated connection as well. So they did us a pretty good favor in that regard. But we've had a pretty good working relationship with LI Trenchless throughout 2 projects now, the 2020 and 2021 grade C pipe repair projects. So it's been working out well so far, but it really does illustrate part of what I was saying earlier about trying to move this project back towards the summer months, because they did the best they could. We actually did have to use some pretty extensive measures to dewater some of our pipes during the winter, and one of them it wasn't going to happen. And so I do want to get this back to a more reliable construction season for that purpose. So I just want to focus on the 2022 commitment. When council allocated budget to this program in the previous CIP, they allocated $750,000 a year. We are not done with the 2021 project, so I have not presented that at all in this particular breakdown. This is just focused on what you allocated for the 2022 project. So you allocated $750,000 for the 2022 project from the surface water utility. Right now, the design grant from Gray and Osborne, which is very similar to the one that they provided to us for the 2021 project, is at $74,100 to complete. And that gives us a comparable budget for the purposes of construction and contingency for our $750,000 for the 2022 project. So the proposed motion that I'd like to request your consideration of tonight is to authorize the interim city manager to execute a A&E professional services agreement with Gray and Osborne Incorporated in the amount of $74,100 for the design work for the 2022 grade C stormwater pipe rehabilitation project. And with that, I will accept any questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. Councilmember Allison, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that material inside the pipes is made out of.
It is a polyethylene liner pipe, but it also has an epoxy to it. So the polyethylene liner is almost like a fabric sock that is embedded with an epoxy that reacts to the UV light curing method. It used to be that we used to cure them through heat. So we used to pump high pressure steam into these pipes to both pressurize the liner to the outside as well as cure the pipe. That was problematic for all sorts of reasons. So the UV light is actually both faster and more reliable.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
You have a resolution number, Mayor?
Resolution number would be 641, 2022-641.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-641 to authorize the interim city manager to execute an architectural agreement and engineering professional services agreement with Gray and Osborne in the amount of $74,100 for the design of the 2022 grade C stormwater pipe rehabilitation project.
Second that.
You want me to get to those? A second by Councilmember Allison. Any further
I
discussion?
did, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 6-0. Thank you,
I
Frank.
did have one final question
Yeah.
for Frank.
Yes.
Frank, I know many of us in the council, thank you for the presentation. That was excellent. Many of us in the council were wondering where we might be able to purchase a microphone like yours to make us sound like an airline pilot. It was just a question that's been bothering a lot of us.
This is a Best Buy special.
Oh, Best Buy. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for your time, council members.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the first of our 2 study sessions. First is item H, the 2023-24 budget calendar. Acting city manager, are you taking the lead or?
Thank you, Mayor.
Finance.
No, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off
Okay.
to our finance director, who will provide with the council the budget calendar for the 2023 and 2024.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
And is the print large enough?
it is for me.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to go ahead and go over the coming 23-24 budget process. I do want to remind everyone that this can be adjusted to best meet the city's needs in the future. I did go ahead and try to schedule public hearings around the holidays. So we do have November 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. But the 22nd is very close to Thanksgiving. So we moved things a little earlier than they had to be. So jumping in, we had the council retreat in March. We have the revisions that finance will be working on for projections for where we think 21-22 budgets are going to end, just so that we have beginning balances for 23 and 24. So from there, we're going to spend about 6 months on budget overall. We'll move down a little bit. So we have finance is going to be meeting with council, and we're going to have internal budget meetings. We're going to have the council workshops where department heads are going to review their budgets with council to make sure everyone is on the same page. We're going to have community outreach with council and staff. From there, finance will be meeting with the different department heads to make sure we all are on the same page. From there, we're going to have a council study session to discuss budget instructions. So we want to make sure that everyone is, again, on the same page. So do we want department heads to be setting their budgets with everything they could possibly think of, everything they want? Do we want them to set their budgets up how they think is going to be the best way to function, or do we want to really focus on, keeping taxes flat? How, is there middle grounds? And so as we have finance and the city manager work with our department heads, we want to make sure we're all aiming at the same target. And then we want to make sure we have these prepped before we bring them to council, so we're not having council waste a lot of time going over projects that council doesn't see as a priority. So from there, we're going to go ahead and give department heads instructions, say, hey, here are your guardrails. And so then we are going to have all of our department heads by late June. They're going to be putting their budget estimates together. And then from there, finance is going to go in. We're going to work on revenues, all of the stuff that doesn't require your department heads and their expenses. Okay, so then by mid-August, we're going to have reports, all of the information due to finance so that we can finalize those numbers, put them together, work with the city manager, have him look over that by the first week in September. So as you can see, we do still have some wiggle room depending on where we're at with the city manager hiring. It's just going to be more complicated if we go much later. So the first piece, we still have a little bit of time right now, but as we get closer to the end of the year, things start rolling and getting a bit tighter. So this is where things get a little bit sticky. So the city manager is going to look over all of the different proposed budgets with finance and each of your department directors. So September 12th through the 16th. From there, we're going to have the different documents. So notes, this is the preliminary budget. We're going to have this available to the public by the 21st of October. So we are pretty close to our statutory guideline here. And then we're going to have our proposed budget. So this is going to be after we approve all of our taxes. is going to be on November 4th. So just that of information available to the public. From there, I wanted to set this up just so you can kind of see how things are going to fall. So we have the department heads that are going to be working with council. We're going to have two main, I called them workshops. It's really just a in-depth study session where department heads are going to, give you their budgets, and they're going to explain what they need and why they need it. So I've got two different dates here. We may consider a third one depending on how long we go. So for property taxes, we have the first review is going to be the 10th. So in one of these workshops, I will go over revenues just so that we're all on the same page. We don't have any surprises. From here, 2 weeks later, we're going to have the public hearing. So we're going to have 2 public hearings bare minimum, and we have to have the ordinance for taxes passed by and to the county by November 30th. So we're going to have the hearing for the revenue sources at the end of October, and then we're going to be sending that. We can adopt it on that next meeting, and then we're going to be sending it off right after that. So, I mean, I could send it potentially on the 1st, but it'll probably more realistically be out on the 4th. So as you can see, we do have a little bit of wiggle room here on the 25th and the 1st if we wanted to have the public hearing on the revenue sources and just adopt the property tax ordinance at the same time. So if we need, this can be pushed to November 1st. From here, we're going to have the clerk go ahead. She's going to file for the preliminary budget and the final budget for the hearing. So these are just dates that the clerk has to have the information out to the public. And from here, we have our final budget hearing and our final budget review. So as you can see, we've got to have this done by December 5th. So we are a bit ahead of schedule here. But we really only have the 15th, which would have to be a special meeting, the 22nd, which is right next to Thanksgiving, or the 29th. And the 29th is an option if we wanted. I just wanted to leave that there in case we needed that time. So from here, I did go ahead and put the budget ordinance on the same day as the public hearing and the final budget review. Typically, in my experience with my prior city, we usually pass that on the same day, because if you've got council and your budget on the same page, you typically already know where they're going to want to see taxes. So, I mean, we're going to have had the hearing, we're going to have gone over the budget extensively. So this should be something that we can do in one meeting. Does anyone have any questions or concerns, any dates that they think should be moved?
Questions, comments? Councilmember Cavalier.
Thank you, Mayor. Laurel, thank you. Your opening comment was incredibly refreshing when you said that you wanted to have the conversation now if the council was looking towards freezing taxes or being flexible. And I think that's important. I think that's how the process should go, instead of trying to butt heads in October, trying to figure out how to streamline it. So good job, good presentation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Laurel, for the presentation. When I was with the police department, animal control had a budget, and I don't know the exact numbers. I just remember one day the animal control officer was frantically kind of going through the manual, trying to look for things to buy. And I was, what's going on? She goes, well, I've got a $10,000. And these are not the actual numbers, because I don't know what the numbers. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the issue, but it was something like, well, I have $10,000 and I spent $6,000. but I've got to spend the other 4 because if I don't, I won't get it next year. And I thought, well, that's not necessarily the best way to be doing things. And what essentially we did at that time was we did not reward a fiscally conservative employee saying, hey, I think I can save a few bucks here. I can buy a less pencil. I don't really need them. I don't need this. I don't need that. I could use it. We could, there's almost always something we could use, but I don't need it. And I can still do my job safely and effectively and efficiently. I want every employee to have the equipment they need to do their jobs. But I would like, as I'm listening to this, I'm just daydreaming with where you're going. It would be great. We have an incentive that punishes them sort of by reducing their budget if they are looking for ways to save, but we don't have a way to reward them. And we can say, good job, thanks, high five. I'm just, as you were talking, I was just reflecting on that and thinking, I know the staff in the city are budget aware, and I don't think anybody is frivolous or wasteful. And the process we have is designed to be efficient. Give me a ballpark of what you need so we can set it up and not, I understand that, but I'm just, as we're sitting here, I'm daydreaming. It'd be nice if we could find a way to not have an employee who's acting in the best interest of the fiscal health of the city be recognized for that and not punished. I'd rather someone come in and say, hey, I need 5,000, and about halfway through say, you know what, I missed it. I did my best to hit my target, but I really need another $2,000 to safely do my job. Say, you know what, you're okay. We'll equip you. You tried, as opposed to giving them 10 and then having them trying to figure out a way to spend it at the end. Is that making some sense? So I don't know if we've made a lot of progress towards doing that, or if that's kind of the similar environment we have now, but that's just my thought. A way to reward the employee that's really looking out for us and not have them feel punished when they make a good fiscal decision.
Comments, questions? We have our work cut out for us for the rest of the year, especially Laurel and staff. So we have the easier part, you have the harder part. So thank you for laying this out. I think it's helpful for everyone to see what lies ahead of us. Okay, that brings us to our other study session. Item I, defining council member roles as board liaisons and the duties and responsibilities of members appointed to city boards and commissions. Acting city manager and the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As we know, one of the greatest resources that a city has is the ability to utilize its residents and their contributions as volunteers, as we saw with the Citizen Patrol. Currently, the city of Mill Creek has 5 boards, actually 3 boards and 2 commissions, all made up of volunteers, the residents of this city, that over the years, different residents have contributed to the value that they brought from a arts and cultural perspective, of planning, design, and parks, open spaces, and so forth. They've become an essential part of this, our operations, helping us from an operational standpoint and from as an avenue between council and their community members. There's been some transition across the city leadership, staff. We have 2 new council members that come on recently, and we've found a need to revisit and discuss the importance of improving workflows and efficiencies across the processes. Not only as city council and the board members, but also how we as city staff can support all of you in accomplishing those projects and those deliverables of those 5 commissions. So with that, I'm going to hand it to our city attorney, who will go over those roles and responsibilities of council members and the boards and commissions. And we'll talk a little bit about the city, how the city staff can support all of you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yamamoto. Naomi, could I ask you to fire up the PowerPoint and go to slide 2? If we could go to the next slide. There we go. Perfect. As Martin was saying a moment ago, the city has the good fortune of having so many great volunteers to serve on its boards and commissions, there are 5 standing boards and commissions. There's the Civil Service Commission, which is the only one where the city manager makes the appointments. It's one of 2 commissions that are required, that the city is required to have by statute. The other is the Planning Commission. And so I've noted here the provisions of the RCWs and the provisions of our city code under which the duties and responsibilities of each are described. With the Civil Service Commission, the liaison at the staff level is the police chief with assistance from the city clerk and the city attorney. The Planning Commission also is another statutory organized commission that requires, that cities are required to have, that's focus is developing legislative policies with respect to land use and predominantly the comprehensive plan. It does conduct legislative hearings, including hearings on amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning. There's also the Design Review Board, which has some specific responsibilities with respect to review and decisions regarding landscape and streetscape requirements of various projects. Then there's the Arts and Beautification Board and the Park and Recreation Board, both of which provide significant recommendations to council with respect to the use of city funds for things like public art, for policies directed on the use of park facilities, and also for rates and charges for park facilities of the city. So if we move on to the next slide. One of the questions I think that was posed to staff was, can we identify what the council's role as liaisons? And for many years, council members have served as liaisons on 4 of the 5 commissions and boards, and most report that that's a job that they look forward to and enjoy. The question is, have we taken the time recently to talk about what the duties and responsibilities are for council members serving on the boards and as liaisons to the boards and commissions? The primary duty of council members in this role is to facilitate communication. So if we can move on to the next slide, we can talk about sort of the do's and don'ts. And the good news is there's a lot more do's than don'ts, but in order to fulfill that communication function, it's important for the liaisons to attend the board or commission meetings, to confer with the members of the board or commission to which they're assigned, so that they have a relationship and can stay in touch with what the work is. Most importantly also is for the liaison to keep the council informed of the board or commission's work, so that it's a two-way communication role and responsibility. One of the things that has been something that many of the commissioners look forward to is the opportunity to present directly to council, and council may want to consider a timetable or some sort of more formalized basis when it would like to receive communications directly from its boards and commissions, particularly in light of the fact that this is a budget year, as the last presentation showed, and this may be an appropriate time for council to provide any direction it would want to have and receive input as well from its boards and commissions that deal with priorities for various expenditures. Another function of the liaison is to make sure that things are moving smoothly on each board and commission. That means that if there's difficulty in how the work is being done, if there is some sort of discord on the board, or as an observer of their activities, seeing any inappropriate conduct, the liaison should promptly report any concerns of those kinds to the leadership of the council and to the city manager. Move on to the next slide. What are the don'ts? It's important to remember that the commissioners are spending their time and their resources and their efforts to help develop policies and to consider important decisions that the council has asked them to wrestle with. So it's important to respect that work by not participating directly in their meetings and in their deliberations. Similarly, the role of liaison isn't to direct the work of the board or commission. That is work that's either assigned by the council as a whole, or it's work that is agreed to in a work plan that has been developed. And then finally, the liaison isn't responsible for directing the work of the staff. Each commission or board has staff assigned to it. Their job is among other things, to set up the meetings, to take minutes of the meetings, and to provide input and information to the boards and commissions to do their work. To the extent that that there needs to be special time and effort on specific projects, then because the staff has many other duties and responsibilities, it's important then to have a feedback loop to the city manager to make sure that there is the opportunity to make sure that the amount of time and effort being requested is available in that person's portfolio. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So we've talked about the role of the council members as liaisons. We also want to spend a few minutes talking about the role of commissioners who serve on our boards and commissions. If we could have the next slide, as we talked about earlier, the major focus of the duties of the commissions is to assist the council, provide recommendations to the council, and formulate those recommendations based upon their ability to spend time on a specific topic area that council simply, because of its workload, may not have time and resources to spend on. So that is the focus, is to provide recommendations. The boards and commissions, for the most part, are not responsible for making financial decisions on their own or on making policy decisions. The policymakers are all of you. They are there to help you identify options and to provide well-developed recommendations to you. Next slide, please. So we also wanted to think about what are some of the best practices that highly functioning and successful boards and commissions demonstrate. And they're not a big surprise here. They include members that study the agenda and come to their meetings prepared and ready to engage. Effective boards and commissions treat each other, their fellow members on the boards and commissions, the staff, and the public with courtesy and respect, just as that occurs in front of your council and at your council meetings. Those principles that exist in your governance manual about treating each other with courtesy and respect simply apply also to all of your boards and commissions. Members should attempt to reach consensus if that's possible. Certainly differences of opinion exist, and that may not always be the case that they can reach a consensus. There may be differing opinions, but the key is to disagree without being disagreeable. Another important function, as we've talked about, is that effective boards and commissions provide regular communications to the council so that council is not surprised by either what the work plan is, what the works are, and what the options are that may be under consideration by the specific boards and commissions. It's also important that members of commissions and boards understand that their role is an advisory role and that they are there to make recommendations, but the final policy and financial decisions remain with all of you. Finally, it's important for the board and commission leaderships, each one appoints a chair, making sure that their leadership reaches out to the city manager when the board or commission is requesting additional assistance and staff time, so that the city manager, who's in charge of all of the staff, can work with the department head and with the specifically assigned staff member to make sure that there is time and energy and ability and bandwidth to meet those needs. I guess move on to the last one is just by way of summary. You know, as all of you have mentioned, the council values the time and the commitment that our commissioners and board members give to the city on a volunteer basis. It makes the community stronger. It also is important for council members because council members can provide a very important communication link between the work of the boards and commission and the work of the council. And then I think it's also important to see if there is interest in the council receiving regular reports from all boards and commissions directly, so that their individual leadership teams can come to you and provide updates at appropriate times. With that, I'll turn it back to the acting city manager.
Thank you, Grant. So I think with that, we can continue our discussion on if council and maybe the chair of our, I believe they're president of the AMV board and the Parks board would like to discuss how we move forward with these suggestions.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you, city manager. Any questions, comments? Yeah, I think part of the main purpose of this was just to set expectations for everyone. And particularly in terms of the last item that Grant referred to, the reporting, that's something that occurred to me. I think would be helpful was if in the fall every year, particularly for the AMB board and the Parks board, maybe more frequently, but particularly in the fall, to come to us and just say, what are they working on? What do you anticipate working on in the coming year that we may need to account for in the budget? So we're planning ahead rather than waiting for an idea to come to us and then have to come back and account for it in the budget. And I guess the only other comment I'd make is I think looking back historically, it's a little unfortunate we've always referred to these as representatives, because to me, a representative implies, maybe I infer that that person is part of that body as opposed to being a liaison reporting to us of what's going on in that body. So I think the purpose here is just, again, to set expectations for everyone. And we want, particularly with the AMB board and the Parks board, to bring us ideas. But as we've experienced over the years with staff, we need to make sure that no one gets out ahead of themselves and they bring ideas to us, so that if it's something we want them to run with, we can give them that blessing to run with it and come back to us with something more definite. So those are my thoughts. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
You see my light?
Oh, I did not. Councilmember
okay.
Steckler, sorry.
I had a couple of questions and a couple of comments. First of all, just a question. I noticed that there are two other boards with council representation that are not listed here, the Left Board and Youth Advisory Board. Was there a reason why they weren't included?
Well, the Left Board is a little bit of a different animal because that deals with individual cases, and there's not a liaison. There are, I believe, assigned council members to the board itself. That's a bit unusual. The Youth Advisory Board, we did not have that on there, and I don't know why that got omitted, but it should have been on.
Grant, is the Youth Advisory Board established by our code?
It's not in code.
Yeah, I think that might be the reason. It's not, it's more of an informal, and I don't know how it came to be be quite honest.
But
Why it's
yeah.
not in our code.
But then,
Yeah,
probably should.
Go ahead.
The second comment, when I first became a councilman, first became a council liaison, the then director of communications and marketing sat me down and walked me through the duties of a councilman liaison on a board, and made it very clear to me that you are not part of this board. You're not a voting member of this board, that your primary role is as a liaison to the council, but that your job is to be an assistance to this board. And you're there to help give them some guidance as to how the council might react to certain ideas or how to prepare information to take to the council, but that you're there to support them. You can offer a suggestion, a recommendation, but you definitely don't ever propose your own guide, your own what's the right word, your own mission, or whatever you're there for. But it's important that you're a part of the group, supporting them and assisting them in whatever way you can. And I see here in this document that was in our packet, the council, the agenda summary that was put together, they again quote the Exhibit B of the governance manual, which is what I used at the time that had the guidance. And it does say here in the current governance manual, is to facilitate communication by attending the commission or the board meetings, confer with the members, and then also keep the council informed. So there are many times during a board meeting, and I wasn't sure, I wasn't conferred with this, so nobody talked to me about putting this documentation together or anything, but many times in a board meeting, the meeting can kind of slow down and stop, and maybe a suggestion or a topic can get the conversation going again. And, but it's always, here's a thought, guys or gals or group. What about this? And it's just a recommendation. It's just a thought. It's not a mission. But this other comment, which this comment that's new, that says council members should not be active participants in the board or commission meeting. I think is a comment, and I saw it in your presentation too, Grant. I think that's a comment that is kind of hard. It could lose a little bit more interpretation, maybe a little bit more definition, because, you know, if you follow the governance manual, you're being an active participant. So you're in violation of that comment, being an active participant, if you follow the governance manual. So I think it's important to be clear about the do's and don'ts of what you don't do. And what we don't want, I think what we're all saying here is we don't want council members guiding a board or dictating to a board or directing a board. I totally agree with that. The board directs the board, the members direct the board. The council's there to assist in any way, shape, or form, but they are not there to direct the board or move it in a particular direction. But they should be there to support in any way, shape, form they can, without providing their own personal agenda or anything like that. I totally agree. I've been involved with the arts and beautification since I became a council member because I have a passion for the arts. But what they do, they make their own decision about what activities or what projects they want to do. And they're not my projects. That's their projects. I get excited because they're an art or beautification project. That's what gets me excited. So I think the only thing I have a problem with was this statement. And now not only did I see it in the document today, but I saw it in the attorney's presentation. Council members should not be active participants. It'd be pretty hard for me to continue my work on the left board or the arts beautification board without being afraid of running awry of that comment. If I open my mouth, I guess the only way I could do that is if I follow that to the letter, I would have to just wait until I'm spoken to and then really respond. And then I'm not really feel like I'm being an active participant, really helping them. So I think that comment needs to be revised, maybe, and a little bit more definitive about what exactly you don't want us to do.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Steckler. I think there's two things there. One is with respect to the left board, the council members are members of the board. That's different. And so that's why I didn't have the left board listed, because it is different. You are a voting member of that board. With respect to the other ones, there are several boards and commissions that have at times potential quasi-judicial roles. Now we have a hearing examiner that does most of that work, but for instance, the design review board addresses projects of specific applicants, so they have property interest there. So it would be inappropriate for a liaison to be actively involved in the dialogue during the meetings. Same thing with the planning commission. I hear what you're saying. I took a look at at the governance manual. I don't think it talks about active participation. I think being at the meetings and letting the council, the board members or the commissioners move along with the process of their meeting. But at some point, if there's a break and there's a discussion during a break about if they get stuck, maybe you can provide some thoughts there. But the key is separating the duties of the board and commission from the duties of the council member. And I think your point is well taken, that there is a bit of a fine line here. And I'm not sure that we can ferret it out completely, but the key here is to honor the work of the board or the commission as their work, and provide a communication link between what council has directed their work to be or approved their work plan, versus being actively involved in all aspects of their deliberations and their meetings. So I do believe that it's important to do as much as possible to keep that separate, particularly with those boards and commissions where decisions are made that involve specific pieces of property or projects.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. So then, Grant, perhaps we can massage that language a little bit because it is rather broad. I actively participate in my parks meetings every month, and I don't drive an agenda, but if I see it going off the deep end, if I see it starting to go in a direction where I know, I'll give a great example, where council just spent $8,000 on signs, and someone wanted to maybe discuss more signs and more of this. And I said, well, you have to have that honest, that's our job, is to be kind of the liaison, say, I'm going to feel pretty awkward presenting to my fellow council members another $6,000 bill for signs when they just signed off on $8,000. So there is a driver piece to that, where we're just trying to, well, I know I'm just trying to move the board, not in any particular direction, but just keep it flowing, I guess, and not be unrealistic. And I think the staff helps pretty well with that too. They do on my boards for sure.
Certainly, there's a difference between not sitting on sitting at their table and actively participating in all aspects of their agenda, and then as opposed to answering a specific question that comes your way as the liaison. And I think that a lot of what you're describing, if I heard you correctly, Councilmember Cavallari, is the latter rather than the former.
Correct.
Grant, did you say we do have provisions in the governance manual, or we do not, that address this?
Well, we talk about in Exhibit B, the procedures for liaisons, and a lot of what is in the memo is similar to what is in that section. It talks about the duties of the council member to attend meetings, confer with members, keep council informed. It does say that liaisons may advocate council actions on behalf of their assigned group or activity, which means advocating at the council in terms of what the work is being recommended by the board or commission, as opposed to directing what the work of the board or commission will be.
So I guess my comment would be, I agree with everything both of you said. I think that is what, I think we're on the same page of what we mean and don't mean by active. And this presentation and the document the city attorney prepared isn't intended to amend the governance manual that we adopted. And the governance manual still governs. So I'm not sure there's any disagreement with what you both have raised in terms of what active means and doesn't mean. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
Well, I think what Councilmember Cavallari and myself are saying is that the statement that says council members should not be active participants in board or commission meetings is such a broad statement. It's hard for us to say, no problem, we'll comply, when we may not be complying in the same principle of what this is written. I don't know if this is a good line, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think the next line is very good. Council members should not be directing the work of the commission or the staff liaisons. Very clear. Love it. That's clear. But to say not be active participants is just kind of very, it's such a broad sweeping statement that it would be hard for us to, I don't think it's a very, I don't think it's, I think we could come up with a more accurate line of what you want us to not do.
Councilmember Bond.
Yeah. I appreciate the tactfulness of which our city manager, or city attorney has made this reminder for all of us on how we should conduct ourselves. I think it was done very tactfully. I think common sense and good judgment has got us pretty far for many years. And I think we can look at this, apply some common sense and good judgment and move on. I don't necessarily want to engage in any more of this conversation, and I would not like to see it get to a place where it's no longer tactful.
Yeah, because again, the purpose here tonight was not to adopt anything, it was just to have a discussion about the roles and responsibilities. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor, for through with that topic. I had a question. I feel like we may have addressed this, but I had someone reach out to me that just wanted to make sure that they were clear for the future, like the steps they need to follow when they do have something that they would like to bring forward to the council. And I think we kind of addressed it, but I don't know that we made it clear, like when the boards have a project, what procedures do they need to follow to make sure they're bringing it to us at the right time to find out if we have blessed it before they move forward with something, to find out that we haven't blessed it, so that they are clear with their steps and that there's no miscommunication there. Do you guys think we've made it clear? I'm not sure I think we addressed it, but I don't think we made it perfectly clear for them. That's fine.
Well, Mayor,
Yes.
one way might be to ask each board and commission to provide an annual work plan to the council that the council could review and approve. So there's communication about what your expectations are for the year. That will give the boards and commissioners an opportunity to develop what their plans are, what they'd like to bring to you and work on. That's been done successfully in other councils, so that everybody's on the same page and that you have a defined scope for what they'll be working on during the year.
And I would say too, that it's, I mean, if the board has this proposal they want to put in front of us, I mean, that's, the chair can bring that to the city manager, to mayor, to me, to Mayor Pro Tem, and ask that it be put on our agenda so that we can have a presentation to the council. So I think that's part of the idea too, of suggesting more regular reporting so that there's more opportunities to get before us or bring a proposal before us to consider and discuss. Councilmember Steckler?
Just typically, boards I've been involved with, the process, in answer to the Mayor Pro Tem's question, has been for the staff liaison to take it to the city manager, the request to bring something to council. So if a board wants to do a presentation, the city liaison would go to the city manager and ask for time on an upcoming agenda. That's been the process in the past.
Works too.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, once kind of along the lines of Councilmember Steckler, Mayor Pro Tem Vignal, one of the challenges have been also determining what the city resources are on a lot of projects that we've been have been brought to us. At the same time, there's also probably a vetting piece to it as well. Another component where some things might not comply with local laws or city code or municipal codes or ordinances. So I'm one with documentation. We could write a policy or an internal procedure. It could be with city staff and chair and council as well, or to document kind of what the process is specifically. So not just for us, but for generations going forward, that may need those SOPs established. Suggestion. Thank you.
I think that'd be a good idea. Any other comments, questions before we wrap this up and move on? Right?
Did we address funding for them to come to us for a budget for the?
If there's nothing further on that, let's move right along because it's 7:57. I know the attention is going to get diverted here in a few minutes. So, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item J, approval of checks number 64599 through 64669 in ACH wire transfers. $678,731.44. The audit committee was council members Bond and Allison. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exception.
Item K, payroll and benefit ACH payments in the amount of $280,045. Exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exception.
In council meeting minutes of April 12th, 2022, March 22nd, 2022, March 15th, 2022, and February 15th, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Could I pull one until next week just to check? Sorry, I didn't.
Sure, which one?
Just the last week, April 12th.
Okay, so the consent agenda is proposed is everything except for moving the April 12th minutes. Is there a motion to move the?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's approved 6-0. Okay, moving on to reports. I just have where are my notes? Oh, there they are. Three things. We had the monthly City Chat special Barb Heidel edition this past week. Thank you, Barb, for attending, and we got to answer a lot of her questions. We will be, I think we have them all scheduled out for the rest of the year, so we will do it again and hope that others can join as well. I had the pleasure of attending the groundbreaking for the Orange Line last week. It was well attended. It was Senator Lubbock, Representative Byrd, Governor Inslee, Senators Cantwell and Murray, and Representatives Larson and Delmeny, among others. So it was an exciting event, and we are at one end of that line. And then the only other thing I'll mention is yesterday we had a Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, Finance Director, myself had a meeting with the county's Office of Resiliency, which is the name of the office that they created to oversee the allocation of the county's ARPA funds. So I think they had something to the tune of 160 million. So it's more of a meet and greet, helping them wanting to get a feel for what we have going on in the city, so they understand as they're looking how to allocate the county resources, how we may fit into their picture and how we may benefit from that. So there'll be more discussions with them going forward, but I thought it was a productive 90 minutes we spent with them. So with that, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have any reports?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I just want to make sure we congratulate the Jackson High Robotics team, Jack in the Box. They were the #3 robotics alliance in the world. Jack in the Box.
Bots?
I thought it was Box.
Jack
Was
in
it
the Box.
Box?
I'm guessing it's
Did
Jack
I
in
say
the
it wrong?
Bots.
Okay,
Jack in the
maybe
Box.
it's Bots. Sorry. They were #3, so that's extremely impressive, and could make sure that they're congratulated. Second, I wanted to bring up a topic for us to discuss, maybe a later meeting. But it's been brought to my attention that we used to have a capital project committee that comprised of some council members and some residents in the community to get ideas from the community and field out things that they thought that we're in need of for capital improvement projects, and work through to bring those to the council for recommendation for our future budgets and capital plans. So I'd like to recommend that we look at reforming that committee. I think it would be helpful to get some insight from those living in the community on what things that they think we need. Maybe there are some things that we're missing, and it would help to engage them and give us a way to start to plan and have things ready for the council to look at, to start to go for those funds that I keep talking about from the state budget and the county budget. So just want to see if I had any interest in looking at the possibility of forming that committee. I have.
Councilmember Bond, do you have any recollection
I have
of
three
that in your
bobbleheads.
tenure?
I don't recall us doing that, but sounds like a good idea.
Maybe we'll put on the list of things to look at and flesh out a little more and come back.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Bond, any report tonight?
No report.
Councilmember Steckler.
I just one item. I met with a group of citizens recently. It was funny you should bring up the ARPA fund allocation from the county, because they made theirs public, and some of their revisions of distribution of funds and opportunities for other groups to submit for grants from those funds. And I noticed that all of us got listed comments from Senator Lubbock's office on the number of grants that are now available. And I was wondering, what is our city's policy now on a lot of these grant opportunities that are becoming available? Because one of the group that I met with said, who do we go to at the city? And I said, I'm not really sure what if there's a particular person that's heading up grants, or if that's kind of head up by a number of different departments. So maybe we could, kind of looking at our interim city manager, maybe when you get to your report, or maybe next week, if it's more discussion, a little update on what is our structure or policy, or how would be the best approach to that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
No report, Mayor.
Councilmember Allison,
No report.
acting city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Two reports, one's not on here. The first one is a city manager hiring process update. Throughout the whole project schedule, there are 5 phases. I won't go into each one. Because we're going to update you on an ongoing basis, probably weekly, as things progress. Currently, we're at a point where we're at the application process. I think it opened up on April 18th. According to Colin Bainziger and Associates, I'll refer to them as CBNA. They gave us an update recently and applications are coming in. So it's encouraging from their standpoint. The closing date for submission of applications is May 9th. May 13th will be the end of that phase 2 where they'll look at the results, and phase 3 will start on June 6th where they'll commence with the review of those applications and selection process. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Seeing none, thank you.
Another report I'd like to put out is as of this week, we've mentioned in the past that we've had a number of positions available or posted actually, or 2 I'd like to bring up is the staff accountant and the hiring manager. As of today, we've made 2 offers out and we're waiting. We're giving these candidates until Friday to respond back. With that, I'll take any questions about our hiring. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Mayor, just a quick question to the city manager.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check and see if, I know we had talked about, the council had about getting an updated wetland study around Cougar Park, or that second section of Cougar Park known as Cougar Park 2, for lack of a better term. If we could at some point get an update on that. I mean, I know now that we're talking the Parks Board, there was a few ideas being kicked around what to do with that, and that would be helpful. Thank you.
Your council member. That's the end of city manager reports.
You gonna introduce Director Todd, or do you want me to?
And then, yeah, the next report will be for Director Todd, who will present on the options we have given the fire and EMS services.
Thank you, City Manager and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. I'm going to share a screen here. I got just a couple of slides. There's some dense slides. Excuse me, from the beginning. There we go. Should work. Come on. There we go. So just give you a quick briefing tonight. As you know, polls are closed just a few moments ago. We should see some results fairly soon, but let's go ahead with our what we need to know. So recapping, this is slides you've seen before. Recapping, if the fire and EMS contract does not pass, excuse me, we have a contract cost if the annexation does not pass. And so we would need to make some fairly quick decisions on how we'd fund that. We talked before about the funding would take several components. If we're going to use an EMS levy or a general tax levy, we have a May 13th date to get that on the primary election. So that gives us only a couple of council meetings.
Mike?
Yes, go ahead.
If I may, the first tallies are in and the yes votes are 76.42%.
Well, then we're done. Thank you. I've been hitting refresh and missing it.
Take a knee, Mike.
We've had about 3 of them today. Yeah, that is good news.
Well, good. So thank you. Thank you. If it's that definitive, as we all know, things can change, but that means we are probably not going to have to be talking about EMS levy. I'll tell you what you might hear is, because we had to notice it this morning, there's a notice that's out there in the paper for a public hearing on EMS, the possibility of you considering EMS levy next Tuesday. We probably won't do that. The other thing that will happen tomorrow is the city manager and the city attorney have already prepared a letter to go to Surfer to effectuate the purchase of the fire station. Regardless of whether we contracted or whether we annexed, we need that fire station. We'll wait until after the election to start that process. But that'll be the next step that's going on. If the vote holds as just described, then you will not have to talk about this much more, and it'll be mostly staff work from here towards the end of the year to work with Surfer and on the purchase of the fire station and work with South County Fire on the transition process. But this is, we're headed on a good path. Thank you. If there's any questions on the process, I'd be happy to answer those.
Just the numbers are, they reported today that 2,972 ballots have been reported, and these first results counted 2,662. So all but 300 of the ballots that have been received as of today. And so far it's up 1,400.
Yeah, that's excellent. I didn't see a lot of people backed up at the post office to drop their ballots off. That's the trick, but I don't think people were waiting. So thank you everybody for your support and what you did out there in the community to make sure everybody knew what was going on. And this is the best decision, the best move to go forward. So this is great.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I was going to give the same information you just did. Secondly, just a quick thanks to all the staff, Director Todd, Director Gimzo, City Manager, everybody on the staff, every council member, all of us that worked tirelessly to get this done. And I think our goal has always been to deliver the same quality of service and then get out of the fire business. I mean, that's a huge load off of our plate going forward, I think, and it's the best thing for the city. So congratulations all around and good job all around. Thank you, citizens. Thank you, citizens, for getting out there and being active and voting. Thank you.
I can say it's a big relief from some of the discussions now we likely are not going to have over the next few months. So yeah, I share Councilmember Cavalieri's comments. Thank you, Mike and Karen, who's not on the call today, and Laurel and Martin and everyone else who was involved. Lance, yes, I'm sorry not to. So now that item O has been cut short, we'll move on to item P. Laurel, passport service update.
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a minute to recognize our passport staff and how hard they've been working, how positive they've been dealing with all of the COVID madness. Also, our passport supervisor, she is tireless. She's here early. She leaves late. She calls people on Saturday and Sunday to make sure that we're reaching out to all of our customers if we run out of time. We've been getting a lot of really good reviews on Google. I've had people reaching out. They've been reaching out to Martin, to me, sending emails thanking the city for the staff and how great they're doing. Our Google reviews really do show what an amazing staff we have. Usually, most of them are talking about how they've got exceptional service, staff goes above and beyond, they're fast, friendly, and professional, they're knowledgeable and kind. People are talking about it's the best experience they've had at a government facility. We've got people coming from referrals from all the way in Issaquah, from Edmonds. And so I just wanted to take a minute to thank them because they really are making the difference. Also, our numbers are up. We had roughly 150 passports over what we had in 2019 in February. So kudos to them. They're doing really good work.
Final comment on the fire. Interesting statistic. There were, in addition to our fire annexation, there were 8 school district bond measures on the ballot. Here are the yes votes for those ballot measures: 50.18%, 51.63%, 42.04%, 42.25%, 44.36%, 49.94%, 52.67, and 52.04. And we came in at 76%. And we forgot to give kudos also to communications. Liz,
Scott, and Jody.
Yeah, Liz, Scott, and Jody on there for their work as well.
We are known as the land of the informed citizen.
Councilmember Juan.
Sean Paddock and
Oh, yes.
And Tanis.
Folk Tanis.
Tanis for the pro committee, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
I think Sean
we
is
can't
on.
underestimate the value of that statement. That's for a lot of people, that was all they got. So
Yep.
that was well done.
Sean is on the call. Thank you, Sean, for your effort in that. Appreciate it. So, sorry, just I thought those statistics were interesting with the vote. So, any further reports?
I'd like to add on to what Director Brock just said, because I know I lurk sometimes on social media in different places, and I have seen all the way in Snohomish posts where people were asking about where they can go for a passport, and people were getting on saying how wonderful their service was here at Mill Creek, and just praising our staff and the excellent job, how knowledgeable they are, how helpful and kind they are in referring people here. And this is a different city that where they were having this discussion, just randomly popped up. So I do want to add on to what Director Brock said and make sure, our passport staff is our front line. They're here dealing with customers every day. And as someone who used to work retail, I know that customers sometimes are not friendly and nice to you. And you have to put up that day in and day out, and they're getting excellent remarks and doing excellent job. And I just want to make sure that they do get commended, and that doesn't get lost in our happiness about the other vote tonight, that they are acknowledged and thanked for their hard work, because it's not always fun to be the person up there for people to yell at when they're not happy about something. So big thanks to them.
And one last thing, I think, did everyone receive the email about Snohomish County cities getting reinstituting their, I don't remember if they're quarterly or monthly dinners, but I think the next one is May 19th. It's at Red Terracotta in Everett, which if you haven't been there, is a great little restaurant. It's fantastic. So with that brings us to audience communication to end the meeting. Either Barb, go ahead.
Barb Heidel, 1401 144th Place. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank all those involved with making the extravaganza such a big success, especially to Jody and Scott in Communications and Marketing Department. A thank you to the city for putting it on, the Public Works Department, Police Department, Youth Advisory Board, all did an awesome job. Also, it was great to see the vendors. We had a mad scientist, Tiny Art, the Mill Creek Food Bank, and I mustn't forget the Easter Bunny. I heard from so many of the parents there that were so thrilled and complimenting the whole event. They just were ecstatic that we were finally able to hold it again. Huge success. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder, Barb. And one final thing, we forgot to mention one person, our prior city manager had a lot to do with getting us to where we are in this annexation as well. So he played a role in this as well. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting, and I look forward to seeing everyone at the next meeting and not talking about the fire annexation.